Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to The Deal with D and J. I'm your co-host, Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is DJ McCatherine. He is
Yes, sir.
now a count 'em, two-time, in one season, a two-time national champion. Ohio State
Oh,
and Florida.
you're a
Now,
clown.
hey, the comments are going to be mad at DJ. You're going to be a fan of both teams. Well,
I'm not a
joke's
fan of
on,
both teams.
joke's on you. Joke's on you. DJ is a lifelong Ohio State fan,
Mm-hmm.
and he graduated from the University of Florida. So by proxy, he gets a ring adjacent for the Gators.
All right, we'll do that.
But
I also picked them to win the whole thing in
we did.
mid-January.
We
So
did. You
I will
called
let
it.
you.
You
I
called.
don't
You
know.
called it. You called. Hey, listen, I was high on Duke. You saw that I was high on Duke because I
And that's
thought.
fair.
But you called it back in January, and then we picked it together. The bracket did great towards the end. Not in the beginning. But DJ, you were down in San Antonio. So, first and foremost, tell us about that experience. What did that feel like? And then let's dive into that national championship game and let's start breaking it down.
Yeah, I mean, I flew out Monday morning. I was up at quarter after 4, or I was waiting for my lift at quarter after 4. I saw tons of people at the airport, all in Florida gear, obviously, making the trip over. We got there. I knew that they always put those games in domes, but I did not know that they were gonna fill all 66,000 seats. 66,602 people attended this game. Absolutely wild. The atmosphere was crazy. We hung out more alongside the UF fan side, as that was my association. But even walking down the streets, I couldn't were. I really couldn't. And they're very opposite colors. You got a lot of blue and then you got red. So you'd think they'd stand out, but I did not see a ton of them. But Florida fans traveled super well. I think they got beaten maybe 65-35, maybe 60-40 if I was really stretching at the dome or in the dome. But atmosphere, wild. I'll have clips up above to show everybody the scenes, the sounds, and everything. And then throughout the whole game, it was very loud. It was very loud. For as slow paced of a game as it was, the crowds kept alive. Houston for a lot of this game had all the momentum. So you heard a lot of the Houston people, Florida fans would come back here and there, and it was a crazy, very once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully not for us, but um, for a first in my lifetime, it was unbelievable.
It's an unbelievable experience, DJ. Me knowing you, I was very, very jealous the fact that you were there, enjoying it, having a great time. But it was unbelievable atmosphere from what it looked like. I mean, for those that got the whole weekend package, I mean, you got your money's worth,
Oh
honestly.
yeah,
Like, let's go ahead and let's jump in to the national championship game.
yeah,
Florida Houston, right? It's a again, we talked about Duke with it being the unstoppable force versus the immovable object in terms of offense versus defense, and it was very similar. And in the first half, that was the case of the whole fact that Houston was just shutting everything down that Florida was trying to do. They
yep,
struggled from Walter Clayton was just making terrible moonshots, just not making sense, just trying to get going. If it wasn't for Richards in that first half, like you're down multiple, like maybe 8 or 9 points, but Will Richards keeps you in it. And I mean, let's just like dissect this first half because one, the refs weren't calling a whole lot of anything. So Houston was really getting their way defensively of the hand checks, being super physical, can get into their spaces. And then nobody could make a shot, but because Houston was defensively so good, it just didn't matter for Florida in that first half. But
No.
Will Richards kept him in it.
Hmm.
I mean, and just kind of like talk to it, like let me know your thoughts. But man, that was a top, like looking at that first half, you're thinking to yourself, I just spent all this money to fly to San Antonio to watch us get maybe blown to bits.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody expected it to be a challenge for Walter Clayton to get things going in this game. I mean, he's been the man. He was doubled a lot last game and was able to make stuff happen. And this team felt like the air kind of got sucked out of them when they couldn't move the ball, when they couldn't do anything. People were confused. I mean, I was confused. I didn't understand what he was shooting. He was shooting 28 to 30-foot Steph Curry range shots, and I'm like, that's not his game. He's trying too hard to force he's trying too hard to force everything. He couldn't get anything going, and that's fine. And on the other side, his teammates really picked him up, like you mentioned. Will Richards came in huge. Alex Condon on both sides of the ball really stepped up in this game. After the oh my gosh, who did they play? After the Auburn game, at multiple points in the Auburn game, I felt like Alex Condon got bullied. Same thing with Texas Tech, right? Texas Tech got their way down low. And I figured Houston was going to do that same thing, but Alex Condon really stepped up to be able to make these plays. And it's really what kept them in this game was Will Richards and Alex Condon, and then obviously the defense. And I got to give it to Richards, excuse me, no, Clayton. What he didn't do on the offensive side, he definitely made up for on the defensive side, especially in the first half, because he was just as pestery, even though things weren't going his way. But a ton of confusion in the eyes and in the crowd of all these UF fans.
Can you hear the TV in the background?
A little bit, but it's not like bad. But I think you may need to lower your volume on the audio thing because it's coming in kind of hot.
My audio? Okay. Is this better? I think I had the mic too close. Right. Yeah, DJ, I mean, I want to talk about Houston here for a second. I mean, they were just grabbing every board. Juwan Roberts just was having his way with Condon. Pivot step, driving the body, soft touch, kick it out to Crier with a big three. Sharp, big three, right? Tugler, again, just dominating the boards. But the one thing going back to Condon, it was one of those things where it's like, at one point it felt like Florida didn't want to shoot. They were trying too hard to just pass. They were trying to find, they know how tough Houston was going to be defensively. And I think instead of like Condon, I remember Condon turns, and he has an easy, maybe 5-foot floater, or has a chance to at least get down and maybe pass it out or go up with it at the rim. But because like he missed the first couple because Roberts, who was maybe 2-3 inches shorter than him, was getting cooked, was getting body bagged, right? So instead of hitting that floater that he's wide open with, he would kick it out, cause a turnover. I also didn't like sometimes that Clayton would do this no-look pass where he would dribble and then without even looking would do this kind of like behind-the-head pass. That there was 3 turnovers from Clayton from that in the beginning of the half. And then, jumping into the second half, man, the refs decided that Florida was just the worst person on earth for about the first 5 minutes of that second half. Getting like 5 fouls in like 3 minutes, made 0 sense, some of the fouls. They give Todd Golden a technical, which might have been the best thing that's happened, ironically, because what happens? Then Houston's getting they're getting all the foul calls. And then Houston gets in foul trouble. And now it was a bad reffing second half because there's 0 consistency. In the first half you don't call anything. In the second half you're now calling everything. It was like very hard to understand where the refs were going. But I mean, Florida goes down 12. Houston has this game handled. I mean, hitting threes, stepping up, grabbing rebounds, had this game handled. And man, give credit to Florida. And I mean, it was Condon starting to find his rhythm. Hot. Am I pronouncing that last name or is it Hogue?
I think it's Hugh.
Hugh, my bad.
Hugh Haw. Haw?
We'll go with Hugh. I think it's Hugh. Yeah, he might be. Anyways, I think Thomas Hugh gets that block, gets the ball, goes down with a tough and one. Right, that's a 6 point swing from a
Mm-hmm.
3 ball shot to now it's a 3 point play. Right, so unbelievable stuff. Right, defensively, and then in the last 5 minutes, you start seeing this momentum starting to build. And then out of nowhere, Florida just said, Houston, you're just not going to get to the lane anymore. Just not going to get into the lane. And Houston's running these ball sets at half court, trying to get any action going. And Florida then was just finding their rhythm, finding the quick in, pass it out. Quick in, Condon goes up. In, kick out, Richards drives, pull up. Or it's Clayton getting. What I loved in the second half was Clayton was finally getting to the rim, which he wasn't doing in the first half. And then he started to get going. Makes a tough and one. Hits the free throws. Starts to get in there. Right? And in Houston, they just, again, the makeup of their team is to not shoot. And they want to hold teams to less than like 70 points. Maybe some other teams to like 60. Because they know that they can play boa constrictor defense. And for most of the game, they did. But prior to that, I mean, that's a tough way to kind of run it down. They tie the game up, right? I'm kind of just going through here, and I'll let you chime in later, right? Going through, Houston's trying to stay in it. They're making some tough lays with Sharp getting the edge, right? And the whole 9 yards. And then the last 4 possessions for Florida, they turned into Houston adjacent.
Yeah.
And just cause turnover. I still like Sharp trying to drive, and Martin. Was it Martin or Richards came in with the swat to knock the ball loose, to give Florida the ball back, and go down, hit those 2 free throws, go up 2, or hit one of the free throws actually.
I want to say it was Condon, and then Richard took it down the court.
No, it was the guy on the wing. It was Richard or Martin. I think it was Richards. Hit the ball out because Condon was there with, I think, Clayton. And then because of that, Richards came over and slapped the ball out of his hand. They go down a whole 9 yards. And then the final possession, DJ, might be one of the worst final possessions I've ever seen.
I think it was Alex Condon. I think it was Alex Condon steal. Down to Elijah Martin. Elijah Martin didn't make the.
No, it's Richards on the wing. It's Richards on the wing. It wasn't Condon.
Will Richard block 62-63.
We got to edit this.
I've got 2 things. One, Will Richard block with 1:30 left. But that didn't lead to anything. Alex Condon steal. Alex Condon missed jumper. Will Richard steal with 26 seconds left.
Yep, that's it.
But nothing led to that. Nothing led into anything. Alex Condon subbing out of Florida. Aberdeen subbing in for Florida. Emmanuel Sharp turnover.
Yeah, it did. It led to Emmanuel Sharp turnover. It led to a free throw for Aberdeen.
Subbing in for Florida?
Read it.
So Will Richard steal
at 26. Cryer subbed out at 26. Wilson subbed out at 26. Condon subbed out. Aberdeen subbed in. Sharp turnover, so that's all in the same thing. And then at 19, it was a foul on Uzan. Aberdeen missed the first free throw. Florida got the ball back. Dead ball team rebound. And then Aberdeen made the second free throw to go up 65-63. I'm right.
Will Richard stole. Right, but then it became a dead ball. Right or wrong?
No. Will Richard stole, and then
foul.
Yeah.
Will Richard steal into a foul with 19 seconds.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. I'm sorry.
So
I had trouble reading the 26.
Stats.
It's
It's
the play-by-play is so weird.
That's how stat crew works, man. But that's again huge step up. And then Houston runs before I talk about Houston, I think for Clayton, I want to step back. That one out of timeout play that Todd Golden ran up, where it was the double stack screens. Clayton curls around, two screens come up. Clayton gets the smallest sliver and hits his only three of the game, which was so clutch for them to tie the game back up. Right. Anyways, Houston then gets their final possession. Right. And again, Florida did the thing where they just kept them up top of the court.
Mm-hmm.
And Cryer had to get the ball out. And then Sharp, you just got to throw the shot up, man. If you're going to elevate with the ball, you got to throw the shot up. And, the game ends the way it does. I think everybody was stunned, thinking it was like, they're going to get, like, we're going to keep playing. But no, that was the end of the game. Pop the confetti.
Yeah.
Florida's national champions. And, yeah.
Yeah, the end of this game was very weird. When the buzzer sounded, it was very weird because when Aberdeen missed that one free throw, you could feel the energy kind of lift. Like everyone took a deep breath in, right? Everyone was getting stressed out because this was the final play. We knew Houston, or everybody knew Houston was going to take that timeout, draw up a play. The only question mark was going to be, are they going to go for the win, or are they going to try to tie this ball game? And man, when he dropped that ball, it was all hell. It was like ready to break loose, but they didn't know when, right? Because it felt like time froze as he's just trying to block out everybody from getting the ball, right? And then Condon comes over, slides across the floor, and then the buzzer sounds. It wasn't until really Florida's bench came onto the court did people start going nuts. It's because they couldn't hear the buzzer. It was all
It was
confusion.
so unbelievable how the game ended. Not because it's one of those like it's not like Gordon Hayward's where he runs and misses the three and like that's etched in your brain. This is etched in your brain because of how they had over 20 seconds, DJ, and they ran they blew 20 seconds. And for everybody, and for me, I'm thinking, why are you trying to shoot the three ball to win? Also, granted, that's probably what they drew up was to go win the game, which you should always do. You should always go for the win. But if the shot's not there, at least find a way to get into the paint where you're the best rebounding team in the country, dude. Get a
Yeah.
tip or something. Send the game to overtime and then have another fighting chance. But
Yeah, my only caveat to that would be that I can't tell if he had enough room. I know it was an uncomfortable shot. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I'm really curious to see. I haven't slow-moed it at all. I've watched the replay a million times. It seems like he could have gotten the shot off, but it was open if he took the pump fake. It was. It would have been wide open. It was going to be juicy. He could have set his feet and he could have burned the hearts of every Florida fan there.
I
Except
mean,
it just
I mean,
didn't.
Kelvin Sampson said it. He goes, should have pump faked it.
And that's what he tried to do. In all honesty, it's just what he tried to do. The shot was open, right? Even initially, the shot was open. If he caught it and shot it, it was open. He waited too long. He set, and that's what caused the defender to get there to close out in time. But
I
he
think
made the right call. He just didn't execute.
I think another thing too is even if you did what you did, you could grab the ball, you save like 6 seconds, and you're
Right.
the best defensive team in the country. You literally caused Duke to panic and literally can't they couldn't pass the ball in. This is what it should that's what you should have done is just give yourself another chance to try and get the ball.
Right.
Right? And then if not, you go and foul in Florida, just missed one free throw out of two.
Yeah.
So then if they do that again, you're down three to try and go into overtime, right? So tough. It's tough for Houston. I think it's unbelievable for Florida. I mean, we talked about it that we thought they were the best team in the tournament. Now, I didn't think they were going to have 8 do-it grind battles that they had that this was. Every game except, I think,
Norfolk State.
Norfolk State, they were down at some point or tied Like
I don't think they led going into the first half of
none,
any of these tournament
none of
games.
them, and they had to come back every single time and grind them all out. And I think the UConn game was like a true test for them, and I think they realized like they can do this. They can survive anything, right?
Yeah,
So I think it was one of those again. This was an unbelievable Florida team. I think this is going to go down as one of the best NCAA teams of all time, simply because like
ooh,
Ken Pom wise, they are. They were like one of the top 5 best college basketball teams of all time statistically.
really?
But it's one of those things also where you're looking at it being like, do they beat, let's talk about it. Do they beat last year's UConn team? Do they beat the UConn team 2 years ago? Right? I mean, I don't think they beat last year's UConn team. I think last year's UConn team was just so head and shoulders above everybody that it did
Right.
not matter who you put in front of UConn that year. I think the UConn team 2 years ago, I think, would have been a battle, war of attrition.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Condon and Klingon, I think Condon in that first year of Klingon, I think they could get the better of UConn, but that game is a toss-up. What do you think about the 2021 Baylor?
I think they have issues. So the last 5, right, is what we're going off of. UConn, Baylor, Kansas, Villanova.
Yes. No. Yes. 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 No. No, 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 no. Really not showing my ball knowledge right now. Because I'm trying to think because I'm going back to
Did UNC
17. No, UNC was 17
Gonzaga?
basketball. They've never won one before.
No, they lost to Baylor, didn't they?
Yeah, that was in 21 because we were still in like COVID.
Oh, there was no tournament.
Yep. In 2020, there was no tournament.
Correct. So it would have been Villanova in 19.
Dude, Virginia, most forgettable team of all
Champion of
time.
all time.
Yeah, so it was so we're looking at UConn, Kansas, Baylor, Virginia, and heck, we could talk about 2018 Nova too, because that's who I was comparing them to prior to the game, or before the season started, before the tournament started.
I do think they battle with they go 1-1 against one of the UConn teams. I don't know which team. I don't really know which one they beat. You mentioned last year's UConn team is just a more experienced and arguably better version of the year before. So it would be really hard as well as those guys played. And recency bias may play a little bit of factor in it because it's hard for me to believe that Florida's out of a ball game, given the run that we've seen in
Yeah,
this tournament. Like I don't think I've seen anything like it. And I was talking to you again mid-January and I was like, I don't know that I've seen a team like this before. I'm not going to go ahead and say that they're the best team I've ever seen, but the resiliency, the clutch, the ability to just turn things around, it's
I think
unlike anything I've seen before.
I think for a lot of people, this Florida team was a huge case of the what ifs because it's like one of those things where it's like if you watch them over the course of the year, you were very confused by certain things, like when they went and lost by 30 to Tennessee, right? Early in the conference slate, right? You beat a North Carolina team that we found out wasn't that great, right? You had a week very in totality, right? And then you're looking at a loss to Missouri before we knew Missouri was really good. Another loss. I mean, my bad. They beat Tennessee by 30, and then they lose by 22 Tennessee. I had the games
Right.
flipped. My
Yeah.
bad. You go and beat Auburn at Auburn. Like, you get on. Then you lose to Georgia, which, Georgia fans, if you're hanging your hat on we're the last team to beat Florida, get out of here. Get out of here with that. That is
Two
so.
thumbs down.
That's so loser mentality of you that it's an absolute joke. Don't, like, get that out of here. Like, then you beat A&M, you beat Bama, you beat Ole Miss, you beat Missouri, you beat Bama and Tennessee again in the SEC championship. And not only that, you blew them all out of the water, except Mizzou was a little bit closer than Comfort, but you blew them all out of the water, right? And then you get in this tournament, and then you got to go fight for every single game to go win. Like, you got to go grind it. You got to go find it. You got to go fight. And I do think with this Baylor team, I think it's one of those where you look at it in, you know, before we get to the Baylor, we skipped over Kansas.
I think Kansas is a very interesting team to look at.
I think they beat Kansas relatively.
I mean, Hunter Dickinson was an absolute monster on that team. And they
he wasn't team.
He was. I'm looking at the roster, brother.
In 2022? He was not on that team.
7'2", Hunter Dickinson, senior.
He was not on that team, brother. I watched that national championship game. He was not on that. Because he never won a title. He was still in then. Like this team was made up of heavy guard play. Christian Braun. You're looking at David McCormick. Very, very heavy leaded team.
Oh my gosh, ESPN has let me down.
They are. Kansas cuts the lead. All these different things just pounding away, and behind those performances, and they had the largest national championship comeback in history. I mean, Jalen Wilson, McCormick, Braun, Juan Harris. I mean, and give credit to UNC. They try to stay with it, but I mean, I'm still haunted by that game because that was probably one of the best UNC teams that I've seen.
Right.
Where it was Caleb Love, a Leaky Black come back for another year. You had Brady Manick, who is unbelievable. Felt like Larry Bird reincarnate, right? And then you had Armando Baycott and R.J. Davis, and I think we lost. Baycott was dealing with an injury, and I think they lost. But I think the guard play being what may sway to Florida. Florida defensively had dogs. And while Kansas did have dogs, they gave up a lot of points. So it was one of those things where I was very much like, I think they could probably take down Kansas in 2022. The Baylor team is interesting because, again, it was COVID. There's a lot. Everybody says a COVID championship is Mickey Mouse, which I disagree with. But this team had dogs. They had Jared Butler, who's in the league, Davion Mitchell. Matthew Mayer was a dog, too. Could shoot the heck out of the three ball, right? And they just had enough guys going on to try and stay in this game and play well. Again, if it's coming down to guard play, I think I'm going to take that Baylor squad simply because they got two dudes who are in the NBA right now. I just think that year, I think Scott Drew had a great team. Defensively, they were locked in. I think they have the size to match up well with Florida. And then we're going to Virginia.
Hold on. I'm gonna slide back. I'm gonna take Florida over these Baylor Bears.
Well, why I can't take them over.
Fair enough. But I'm going to say my piece anyways.
Say it.
I like the size matchup in this for Florida.
The four bigs that you can rotate at any point is just such a crazy thing for Florida to have.
It's ridiculous. And I know that this Baylor team scored 82 points a game, but Florida could easily match that. And the stats are pretty similar. I think, what did Florida give up? Gators opponents points per game basketball. I think it was really similar. Of course, they're not going to give me a straight up 9.6. So they gave up a little bit more, but we saw the difference in what those teams could do. Given the gauntlet that Florida went through, I would take the Gators over that Baylor squad, I think.
And then talking about 2019 Virginia, that Virginia team was nasty defensively.
Yeah.
Even more so than the difference between this Virginia team and the Houston team defensively is that Houston they could play the screen pick and roll game really, really well. That was the one thing I remember about that team was they would have a center shoot up the court and then come back, and he had so much length. They had I think DeAndre Hunter on that team and Kyle Guy and all these
Right.
names. I do think before Virginia turned into mush, I do think that Virginia team was so good that I do think they beat Florida, but I don't think it's easy. I think simply because they have somebody who has the same length and height as Condon. They have somebody who can match up against Clayton really well. And the difference for me is that defensively they can lock you down and they can shoot the heck out of the ball. Kyle Guy had an all-time March Madness run, especially in the Final Four, hitting a corner three-pointer right to send them to the national championship when they played Auburn. So I think that Florida team gets it done. And if we want to go even further back, 2018 Villanova was a special team, man. You want to talk about that team? You want to talk about NBA guys? That team has every NBA guy you could think of. You got Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, right? Josh Hart. Like, we're talking all different types of NBA stars I just named right there. I'm trying to remember who the center was. If it would pull it up for me, that would be so fun. If it would, give me what I asked for, but it won't. So, anyways, like, it's that Villanova
Jenkins.
team.
Wasn't Jenkins the center, right?
No, Jenkins was a guard.
That was a big guard.
Yeah, he was not a center, though. Cool. We don't have a box score for that game, so that's cool. We're going to go 2018 Villanova roster. I mean, Colin Gillespie was on this team. He's in the NBA. He was a little freshman back then. Eric Paschal, NBA guy. Phil Booth, I think might have made it to the NBA. Omari Spellman, I think, was like an NBA guy for a second. Jermaine Samuels, no. Mikal Bridges, we just talked about. I mean, plenty of guys on this team that this team was so special.
Archie Diacono.
Yeah, no. Diacono wasn't on this team. That was 2016. You're mixing teams up.
Men's basketball championship, national championship,
DJ.
77-74.
Look at the year. That's 2016.
Why is it doing this to me?
Because you don't know ball, brother. Anyways, like I said, I think
No ball.
that Villanova team was very, very good. I don't know. I think that Florida team takes down that Villanova team.
I don't know if I'm giving you too much credit. I mean, you brought up the NBA players, and I think that's a valid point. But I mean, I think in 3-4 years, we can turn around and be like, I mean, Walter Clayton's probably going to be a top 10 pick. Will Richards is going to be,
You said
probably
Walter
first.
Clayton's going to be a top 10 pick?
I think so.
Nah, no shot.
I think he's jumped a ton. Top 10, top 15 at the most in this draft. Alex Condon will be an NBA player. Will Richards, Elijah Martin is going to be a dog in the NBA, I think, especially defensively. Who else has the potential? Hugh, however you say it. Maybe not this year, but he's got a great chance to go. So I mean, that Villanova team was great. But I mean, I would take this Florida team over the Virginia team. I know you said they've got people that can shoot, but it was the Florida defense more than anything. When they were down, they made stops when they needed to, and I think they could do that against almost any team that they wanted.
Florida's KenPom ranking was a 36.46. That would land them as the third best team in the KenPom era. Behind those is Kentucky 2014-2015, and not behind, in front of those is Kentucky 2014-2015 and Gonzaga 2020-2021. And behind them is Virginia, Houston from last year 23-24, Baylor 2020-21, Villanova 2017-2018, Wisconsin 2014-2015, Gonzaga 2018-2019, Duke 2014-2015, and Arizona 2014-2015.
So who is 1 and 2?
Kentucky 15, which they lost to UConn in the national championship.
Yeah, that was with Booker, Cat,
Yeah,
The whole
Tyler
gang,
Hewlett.
right?
Yep. Yep. And Gonzaga 2020 where they lost to Baylor in the Natty, and that was with like Jalen Suggs and a couple other dudes. So Florida would be the third best team all time, according to
Third best
KenPom.
champion all time.
Third best
No,
champion all time. Third best champion
no,
all
because
time.
you said Kentucky lost. Kentucky lost to UConn. So that's the third best team all time.
Well, 24/7 Sports is not giving me what I want. Trying to pull up the all-time. Can I pull up all-time program ratings? I do think, DJ, if we look at it here, let's just do KenPom ratings. Just stay with the numbers here. Florida is at 36.46.
Okay, hold on.
I'm not
hold
gonna
on,
go.
hold
I'm not gonna go all like every single year, but
on.
36.46. UConn last year was at 36.43.
36.43.
2 years ago, 29.86.
29.86.
Kansas was at 27.49.
27.49.
Baylor was 33.87.
33.87.
Virginia was 34.22. Villanova 33.76. North Carolina 28.22. And Villanova 32.01.
I mean, that's Florida by,
A significant margin.
I mean, except for the UConn team last year. The next one is 34.22. I believe that was.
And there's only, and like we said, there was only 2 teams with a better overall. There's only 4 teams with a better overall KenPom ranking than Florida, and that's this year's Houston team, this year's Duke team, 2020 Gonzaga, and 2014 Kentucky. So now that we got that squared away, we're gonna have to do a lot of editing there. I mean, I think statistically they're one of the best teams all time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest losers of the weekend is definitely Duke and Auburn fans. Being like, when they watched that first half, being like, this is what we're doing? Like, really? I was like, we can shoot better than this. We can get ahead. We can go and win. Like, instead, Duke had the biggest choke job I've ever seen in a Final Four ever since, like, maybe Chris Webber, maybe, in the extra timeout being called that he didn't have. But it's like, it's just amazing what one of those things can do sometimes. And it was an all-time Final Four and an all-time national championship.
Yeah.
I think this goes down literally as maybe a top 3 national championship and maybe is it maybe the best Final Four ever?
You could definitely make an argument for like Final Four games. It could very well be the best or best 2 games or best 3 games you could have gotten for sure. It's definitely in the argument. That Duke Michigan State Final Four. Who played on the other side that year?
What, Duke Michigan?
Duke Michigan State. Because that was a Final Four matchup, wasn't it?
When
Zion and that wasn't an Elite 8 game, was it?
maybe. What year is that? 28, 29?
29. Yeah, that was the Elite 8. Yeah, so that's a little too far.
Yeah, no, they played Michigan State in the Elite 8 and they lost.
Yeah, so that's too far.
I mean, the way I look at it is, if you think about it, I don't think I remember being this excited for a Final Four since maybe 2015 Duke year, where it was like Duke, Wisconsin, and I think it was like Michigan and somebody else. Might have been Loyola Chicago. I think that, like, to me that was so exciting because it was like you've never seen anything like it. Michigan State Duke was a Final Four in 2015.
Yeah.
But they got blown out by 20.
I was going to say that Final Four in 2023 with Miami, UConn, Florida Atlantic, and San Diego State was good. San Diego State with a walk-off.
Solid. I think
with a buzzer beater. I mean, the Miami UConn game could have been better.
I think there's nothing. I don't think anything's ever going to top 2016 Villanova National Championship. Buzzer beater.
Not as a championship game. No.
Yeah, buzzer beater to win the national championship. I mean.
Yeah, no. With a crazy shot beforehand.
Yeah, no shot. Like, no shot. Yeah,
I mean,
I
this was it was a bore. I don't
I
like to
never
say that
I
it was a
never
boring game to watch, but it was just the the excitement on both sides. It just felt one sided for the first 3 quarters of Florida only led for a minute and 3 seconds total in this game.
yeah.
Like talk about the only time you need to be in the lead is when the buzzer hits zero. A minute and 3 seconds. Houston had the ball or had the lead for 38 minutes and 57 seconds out of 40.
It's impressive. Like I said, the game. If you watch the game, you're kind of like waiting for these runs to happen, and the runs did happen. But again, these are super well coached teams that it's like they can coach themselves out of the runs a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So, um, I thought it was exciting. I thought it was spectacular. I thought it was really, really good. Where it ranks for me all time is probably a top three national championship all time, and that was arguably one of the best Final Fours I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's hard to beat those runs that you were talking about. They tended to be for the longest period of time like 6, maybe 8 points, and then Houston went back up. Like I couldn't even tell you. I have video of a couple of turning points in this game, right? A couple of them were just a big shot. A couple of them were an and one that I thought would get the momentum going, and then it just stopped. Right. Every time, like, I really thought the game was over when Florida got dunked on. When I don't know if it was Hugh or Condon at the bucket, but when he got dunked on,
It was Hugh.
my gosh, the biggest let go of disappointing air got let out by Florida fans. It was insane.
But I think if you're Houston though, you look at it and you go, what's next? This was the best team that you've ever had.
But the thing is, they could be better.
Most of the guys are coming back. They got three freshmen who are in the top 25, in the top 100, and they're going to be right back at the top of it. And Kelvin Sampson, like, I know they need shooters. They need shooters bad. But again, Houston will be just fine where they are. Duke will be just fine. They're getting the Boozer twins. Florida is going to have to do a lot of retooling. Very senior led team of, Clayton, and you hope Hawk stays and some other guys, but who knows when the NBA comes calling.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you're fine. And I would like to think that I think the biggest thing too is like I think Auburn's going to be just fine again, but
What's his name will be getting a call
Chad
to the NBA.
yeah, Broom's going up to the NBA, and Chad Baker Mazzara is coming back. So, it'll all work out for itself, and I think those teams will be just fine. I think there's a lot of teams that there's a lot of work to do in the transfer portal. I mean, you're looking at some teams, and some teams don't got players on their roster. They may got three guys right now, maybe one, maybe none. Like there's a lot of teams having to do full overhauls that you didn't expect. So great March Madness, unbelievable stuff. Congrats again to the Florida Gators and Todd Golden being the youngest coach since Jimmy V to win a national championship.
Yeah. What do you think happens for Florida next year? What kind of team do you expect them to
I
be next
expect
year?
I expect him to be well coached. I think he tries to get another very good point guard in the portal. I think they have some okay recruits coming in. Again, recruiting doesn't really do anything for you until you win a national title. Like Dan Hurley said in an interview recently where he was like, we didn't really start going after 4 or 5 star guys until we won a national championship in 23. So like,
Right.
it changes a
And
lot
that's
of things.
crazy for a UConn team whose like thing is basketball.
Yeah. So I mean, UConn then was not in a good state of where they were as a program, and Dan Hurley has come around and turned it around over there.
Hmm.
I think Florida. I think this team was so special. I don't see them being in the top 10 maybe to start the year, just because I think they're gonna like. I need to see what they do in the portal. There's too many questions right now with too many guys.
Right.
So until I see what the team looks like, the nucleus, all I can tell you right now is the guys they got leaving are going to be really, really hard to replace. And
Yeah,
so I think it makes the road to come back that much tougher.
no, for sure. Totally agree. I think they're gonna struggle next year, but I didn't expect them to be this good. Uh, they end up being one of the greatest teams I've ever seen in person. I wish I had gotten to see them in one of their other games. Right, I think this was the least entertaining of the games that Florida's played in, as far as what they've needed to overcome. Their deficit was huge, but they relied on big plays, and it didn't seem like they had. Let me rephrase that. They didn't. They relied on exciting plays, right? They were big plays, but they were also exciting, and this game just did not have the amount of exciting plays as the other one. So I thought it was one of the least entertaining
Yeah,
in that aspect. But as far as the closeness of the game, the comeback, it was a game that I would not have wanted to miss. But at this Florida, it was just a different Florida team. It was just a different basketball team than anyone that I've seen. So I don't know what I would take. I don't know if I would take the most dominant team or the grittiest team. Putting this team all time and against some of these just utter powerhouses again, like that Virginia team or that UConn team from last year. Um, and even going back to the 2012s, like that monster of a Kentucky team. I don't know. I don't know. Like they have everything they need to win, but this Florida team was going against everything that everybody had to win, and they still overcame it. So it's just tough. So I'm interested to see what the people in the comments think, or they place this, or where they place this Florida team all time.
that being said, DJ, I think it's a good place to wrap it up. I have been your co host, Jacob Pro. He has been DJ McCatherine. What to expect from us in the next coming weeks? Me and Drew, the Spinnaker Swiss Army Knife, we're going to do a WrestleMania preview show, give DJ a little break, and then our favorite time of the year mock draft episode, maybe, maybe with some special guests on the way. So it's not just us potentially, but keep an eye out for that. Yeah, that's where we are. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X, and anywhere else. We're on all platforms. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You know the deal. This has been The Deal with D and J.